Donald Trump is suing CNN for defamation, demanding $475 million. To be specific, he's requesting formally $475,075,000 because there's $75,000 compensatory limit, and then he wants $475 punitive, but it actually may go up a lot more than this because the compensatory damages, the initial claim, is going to be set at trial, or at least that's what Donald Trump is seeking. So this could end up substantially more than $475 million. And I'll tell you, my friends, this one's interesting. Right off the bat, I read the lawsuit, the filing. We have it pulled up. And I'm looking at it, just shaking my head saying, you know, Donald Trump is suing CNN because they likened him to Hitler some 7,700 times. And he's saying that's defamation. CNN bragged about their bias. They bragged about stopping him from winning in 2020, and thus they owe him damages. They know what they're doing is fake news. They know they're lying. And he makes an interesting point that when Stacey Abrams claimed the election was stolen, they didn't challenge her at all. She actually said that there was fraud and the ballot machines were flipping votes, at least according to this lawsuit. And I believe he mentions Cuomo. It might have been Tapper or Cuomo. I think it was Tapper. He said to her, like, so how are you going to fix these things? CNN has stated over and over again that Trump's claims about the election are the big lie. And this is the principal claim in Trump's lawsuit. Now, right off the bat, I look at this and I'm like, dude, you're allowed to say these things about people. It is not reaching the criteria of actual malice to call someone Hitler. But Trump has an ace up his sleeve. You see, a lot has been changing in the legal landscape over the past year, which suggests, albeit this is a major long shot, and I'm not a lawyer, there's a few things I'd point out which, again, lawyers correct me, but I've seen some interesting things. Notably with the Project Veritas lawsuit. They got a tremendous victory. I don't know if it sets precedent. I don't think it does. But there was a tremendous victory when James O'Keefe sued the New York Times. The New York Times claimed that they were, giving opinion. Oh, we're allowed to express our opinion. The judge said, no, you claim this is a fact-based news report. Then if you put in there your opinion and it's wrong, you are acting as though it's news. You see, this is an interesting point. If I put an article that says news fact and then give my opinion, which is not provably true and defamatory, they're going to say you made a statement. You got to live by it. If you want to make an opinion statement, those are protected. You know, I can come out and say something like, I think Nancy Pelosi is awful, and I'd be willing to bet that she kicks dogs. Right? The idea there is, it's in my opinion, based on her behaviors, I bet she does that. Now, I don't know if she actually does, but there's better ways to do it. You could say something like Nancy Pelosi is a white supremacist. She is. Nancy Pelosi holds white supremacist views. Or how about this one? Nancy Pelosi is an unrepentant racist who engages in racist activities and assists directly white supremacists. How about this? Can we crank it up a notch? Nancy Pelosi actively supports, assists, and aids white supremacists. Now that sounds like a statement of fact. It's not. That's my opinion. And it's funny because you're like, but you're saying she does a thing. No. You know, even if you said, like, it's really weird how this defamation stuff works. You have to say something like Nancy Pelosi walked up to person A and then committed act B and I watched it happen. That's defamatory if it didn't happen. But Nancy Pelosi is viral right now. I'm sorry, she's going viral in this video where she says farmers in Florida are asking, why are you sending these migrants up north when they need them here to pick our crops? Based on that, my opinion is that she's supporting, aiding, and associating with white supremacists. Because you get the point. Like, she said a thing. Whoa, that's racist, in my opinion. So when they say Donald Trump is like Hitler, it's an opinion. It's an opinion. Now, this is an opinion show. I give my opinion and thoughts on the news. So when I give my opinion, it's just that. But if CNN comes out and says, the most trusted name in news, this is news, objective fact, Donald Trump is Hitler. Well, there's an interesting argument to be made based on what we saw with Project Veritas. Now, I still got to say, I think this is going nowhere. I think Trump's lawsuit's going nowhere. But I think Trump's doing this for a reason. I think Trump is attempting to litigate 2020 election claims through a defamation trial. This is interesting. Part of Trump's lawsuit is that what CNN has said is false, calling his claims big lies. CNN defends themselves saying that 50 court cases have determined there to be no fraud. But hold on there a minute. This was interesting when I was reading the filing. I believe for the most part, these court cases pertaining to the 2020 election were not about fraud, but about procedure, and were dismissed on standing, as most Trump supporters probably know. If CNN is coming out and saying that fraud lawsuits were dismissed, they have to be very specific and in addressing those specific claims, which makes things interesting because then what if Trump said, hey, did you see this lawsuit pertaining to procedure? We should look into that. Then CNN says Trump was pushing the big lie in that speech. That claim was the big lie. Associating a procedural argument with a fraud-based argument, you've got two different issues here. So I wonder if what Trump is really going for is a roundabout way to get the issues of the 2020 election in a court when the courts have dismissed it on standing. Right? So this is fascinating. I'm not a lawyer, so you should probably take a look at what Viva Barnes or Ricada have to say about this. But I'm wondering if, you get a guy and he says, I'm going to sue Pennsylvania because they allow universal mail-in voting. And then the courts say, you have no standing to make this claim. Dismissed. The court did not rule on whether or not universal mail-in voting was allowed or not. I'm giving an example. They actually did rule on this. I think the state Supreme Court said it was fine. My point is, someone argues policy. Court says no standing, dismissed. They never rule on the policy. So then what happens is CNN comes out and says, see, the court case was dismissed. Trump, withstanding from defamation, files a lawsuit. As part of this case, CNN will have to assert that their calling Trump a liar is backed by the truth. So they'll have to assert in court about these court cases. If Trump says, I was talking about this and can prove in this statement, I said lawsuit in Pennsylvania related to procedure, CNN called that a lie. Well, then it's going to be interesting because CNN's defense is that the fraud lawsuits. Okay, well, hold on. What about the procedure lawsuits? Let's read some of this from timcast.com. And we got some more news on CNN. The lawsuit was filed on Monday in U.S. District Court in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Lawyers representing the former president accused the network of a campaign of dissuasion in the form of libel and slander to keep him from winning the 2020 presidential election. Quote, CNN has sought to use its massive influence, reportedly as a trusted news source, to defame the plaintiff in the minds of its viewers and readers for the purpose of defeating him politically, culminating in CNN claiming credit for getting Trump out in the 2020 presidential election. The lawsuit reads, CNN's campaign of dissuasion in the form of libel and slander against the plaintiff has only escalated in recent months as CNN fears the plaintiff will run for president in 2024. As a part of its concerted effort to tilt the political balance to the left, CNN has tried to taint the plaintiff with a series of even more scandalous, false, and defamatory labels of racist, Russian lackey, insurrectionist, and ultimately Hitler. In order for a public figure to sue for defamation, they typically have to prove actual malice. But Trump's legal team argued the standard does not apply in this case. Now, hold on. They do, in their filing, assert the actual malice standard has been reached, but it shouldn't matter anyway. Quote, even though the actual malice standard is met here, in circumstances like these, the judicially created policy of the actual malice standard should not apply because ideological homogeneity in the media or in the channels of information distribution risks repressing certain ideas from the public consciousness, just as surely as if access were restricted by the government. Suits like these do not throttle the First Amendment. They vindicate the First Amendment's marketplace of ideas. Trump has threatened to sue the network in July if they did not retract a number of statements in a letter titled Notice of Intent to Bring Civil Action for Defamation. The letter was addressed to CNN Executive Officer Chris Licht and CNN Executive Vice President and General Counsel David Vigilante. Is that how you pronounce it? Vigilante? Vigilante? I don't know. CNN declined to comply with the demands. Now, I think, here we go. Yeah, here's the statement. This is interesting. CNN has had the opportunity to review your letter of July 21st, 2020, and to evaluate your demand to take down and retract 34 articles and televised segments you identify as defamatory, and to cease referring to representations made by former President Trump regarding the outcome of the 2020 presidential election as lies. We declined your request. CNN response began. Hold on there a minute. Trump didn't say lies. He said, quote, the big lie. In his lawsuit, Trump's lawyers point out the big lie is a direct reference to Adolf Hitler's attempt to smear Jewish people. Their point is that CNN is trying to defame Trump as akin to Hitler for questioning the 2020 election, using the phrase the big lie. Not saying outright, you have posted lies, saying you are using the phrase the big lie. You see the difference here? CNN's playing dirty games. As they noted in their filing, Stacey Abrams made direct claims that her election was stolen on CNN, and they did not challenge or criticize her for it. You got something interesting there. CNN goes on. While we will address the merits of any lawsuit, should one be filed, we note that you have not identified a single false or defamatory statement in your letter. It is well established that the outcome of the 2020 presidential election was unaffected by fraud. No, hold on there a minute. Unaffected by fraud is an interesting response. This is not this is a response letter, not a legal statement to the court. But there was fraud. I mean, a guy was just criminally charged. Did it change the outcome of the election? No, I don't believe so. Now, as to whether or not it is well established, that's an opinion statement. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond in a court filing. I don't believe evidence has ever been presented sufficient enough to claim that fraud changed the outcome of the election. But to say unaffected, I mean, that's interesting. One guy filing one false ballot does affect the outcome. It changes a number by one. Does it ultimately change the outcome? No. But people have been arrested and charged for this stuff. So it's interesting. That's what they said. Again, not a legal filing, just a response to Trump. They say, as verified by the dismissal of no fewer than 50 lawsuits by judges across the United States asserting otherwise, the sanctioning of multiple attorneys for making unsubstantiated election fraud claims, and investigations conducted by the Department of Justice, Congress, and various state and local bodies. Now, I just want to pause there a minute. I don't know what lawsuits they're referring to, but again, this is why a formal response should be interesting. I think CNN's going to have to issue some response. They're probably going to say something like this. They got to be very careful. This could open the door. I don't think this goes anywhere, to be completely honest. I read through this and you know what, man, it's just frustrating. Yeah, I want to see CNN held accountable, but I don't think this is going to go anywhere. Now, it'll cost them money, sure, I guess. Trump should sue. I think he has to. And maybe a judge will have the balls enough to be like, you can't go on TV and call someone Hitler for 4 years. But I'm not convinced the judge is going to have the balls to actually do it. I think they're going to be like, well, you know, Times v. Sullivan, and these are opinion statements, so should be interesting. I read through this. Trump, I think, really needed just to show some definitive statements. And what they're basically saying is they're calling him Hitler over and over and over again. And it's like, yeah, at a certain point, you can maybe argue that they're claiming to be news. The real argument is this. CNN is claiming to be the most trusted name in news. So when they go on and present as fact, the argument from Trump is that should overrule any opinion argument. Maybe. I agree. I really, really do. You cannot, in my opinion, go on TV and say, welcome to our news program where we share facts. Trump is Hitler, by the way. Because then you're basically admitting you are cutting out the idea that it's opinion. You want people to believe it is a fact. That matters, in my opinion. Now, I think what the courts hold is that it doesn't matter. We've seen this defense used by even, I think, Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, that although they're a news program, these are all opinion statements. So this is likely what's going to happen. CNN is going to say, we're a news network, but these are opinion shows. Just because we're a news network doesn't mean that our opinion guys all of a sudden now are doing hard news. Therein lies the challenge. The distinction between news and opinion. That's where it will matter most. So we'll see how this plays out. But let me tell you something truly interesting here. Chris Cuomo says he's learned lessons after being fired from CNN, blasts his former employer, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Chris Cuomo's got to do. There's something interesting in this that I think relates a little bit to the lawsuit. So he goes on to talk. He's got his show and News Nation. The ratings are not good. He's only getting $1 million to do the show. Here's what he says. He added, quote, there's this thing I called good as it gets Republicans. Bill Barr, Mitch McConnell, Liz Cheney, Mike Pence. Really? At the end of the day, they all did the right things on one key issue, which is, did Trump win the election? And they all said, no, he didn't. Okay, I don't agree with the politics on much else, but that's as good as it gets Republican. You're not going to get them to agree with you on most things. If you went down a list of the things Liz Cheney believes most liberals would be booing her out of the room, but she gets cheers now because on that one issue, which is the most fundamental issue right now, she did the right thing. Cuomo at the conclusion said the show was the best I could have imagined. Woo, there's something interesting right there in that statement from Chris Cuomo. And that is, these people have one issue. They cheer on Mitch McConnell, Cheney, Pence, Bill Barr because they don't like Trump. Oh, they can come out and be like, no, it's because Trump's big lie. No, it isn't. They hated Trump before he claimed the election was stolen. Look, I think any sane, reasonable person can say two things. Trump had great policies and the economy was great in 2019, and the fraud narrative is silly and you need to move on from it. Diehard Trump supporters really don't like it when I say that, but I say it a lot. You need to tell people to get out and vote. You need to win in the midterms, and telling people that the election was fraudulent is voter suppression. Maybe there's something I don't know about. Totally fine. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Hey, all right, you're allowed to. You need to get every single person you know to go vote. That's it. Every single person. Now, not only that, they should be going to their friends and family and getting them to go vote too. Everyone, max voter turnout. You know why? You win the midterms, you win in the state houses and the state senates, and then you can audit and do whatever you want. You will have the reins and the subpoena power. But for the time being, this I don't think helps anybody. But here's the point, not to get into all that. When Cuomo comes out and says Liz Cheney is as good as it gets Republican, she's a warmongering psychopath, but she hates Donald Trump. So you think that's as good as it gets? Chris, you are nuts. And you know what? Screw you, News Nation. This dude faked being in COVID quarantine, and y'all know it, and y'all gave him a show. I'm sick of it. All lies, all manipulations. So as we watch CNN burn down in a blaze of failure, here you go, my friends. Chris Wallace's CNN celebrity talk show debut tanks. Do you know what their key demo viewership is? I want you to bask in this. I want you to gloat in this. I want you to sit there, raise your fists like Elmo with the flames behind you. 44,000 viewers. Now slam your fist on the table and say, yes. These scumbags that would spit on their own mothers for $1. Chris Wallace. His show drew in just 44,000 viewers in the advertiser-coveted demographic. Wow. I made a video of my chickens that got more views than that in the key demo. And to be fair, total viewership, he got 400,000. Amazing. 29% drop in the average ratings for the 7 p.m. Eastern Time hour. Woo! So not only is he collapsing in the key demo, a worthless program by a pathetic, spineless man, even in primetime senior viewership. 400,000. Okay. Look, old people watch TV. Young people don't so much. They watch YouTube. I don't know how many views this guy gets on YouTube, probably a bit more, but 44,000 viewers. These people get views on YouTube because YouTube is propping them up. And in spite of censorship, we at Timcast and many other independent channels rival them. And they hate it. They're angry. They want us to go away, but they can't make us go away. We get more viewers than they do. It's really amazing. By the time you watched this video, it probably has more than 44,000 viewers. Isn't that crazy? Well, to those who watch the video right when it comes out, of course it doesn't. But most people will watch after the first half hour when you will notice it's got more than that. And it's all key demo viewership. So let's just bask in that. Knowing that CNN, despite everything that's going on, they are just collapsing. CNN ratings continue to tank as boss Chris Licht has work cut out for him. After the 2020 election, the viewership at Timcast dropped precipitously. But it actually was fairly high in January of 2021. And then following that, it just slowly dropped off to around probably half. I mean, in live viewership, it was crazy. During the peak of 2020, we were getting like 180,000 concurrent viewers or something, 150,000 concurrent viewers on Timcast IRL. Kind of scary thought. We were getting over 1 million views per night. Nuts. It was crazy. Huge shows. Everybody was watching. And then you had 2020, and everybody was burned out. In 2022, things started to slowly pick up again. Right now, we are entering the midterms, and viewership for Timcast is starting to pick up substantially. I think we're up like 30% already. It's fantastic. And then you take a look at CNN, and they're down that much. And that's the point. While CNN and Timcast started to drop, CNN kept going down, and Timcast is starting to go back up. Now, look, with a political show and in culture commentary, we talk politics a lot, viewership goes down in off years. Everybody knows that. I'm not going to rag on CNN because, like, after the election, their ratings dropped. People kept doing that. You know, they were like, their ratings are down. I'm like, yeah, everybody's ratings are down. It's about proportionality, right? But right now, their ratings should be going up, and they're not. They're going down. That's amazing. Nobody wants to watch your garbage shows anymore, dude. I think come 2024, CNN is just going to be sputtering. They're going to have nothing. And we are probably, 2024 is going to be nuts. We're probably going to be getting the same viewership. It's going to be bigger. So this is the cool thing. Here's how it works with the ebbs and flows of news and commentary viewership. In off seasons, viewership goes down, but it doesn't go down as low as it's ever been. It stays a little bit and then it spikes again. So it's like every fall you're up, and then it goes down, but then you're up more and you're more because there is growth. I'm not surprised people don't want to pay attention to politics in off seasons. The midterms aren't as relevant, but now, considering the culture war and the pop culture being politics, the midterms are starting to pick up. So it's going to get pretty interesting. Viewership for us is going up, and for CNN, it's in the gutter. I'm glad to see it. I can respect Chris Licht trying to weed out the ideologues, but it's not working. As for Trump's lawsuit, CNN will issue a response. The response will be interesting, but that's probably all we're going to get, so we'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out. Become a member at timcast.com to support our work. Follow at Timcast News on Twitter, and we'll see you all at 1 p.m.